It's simple, really. Great stories with a good cup of tea. It's the Tea with Mike show. On this episode of the Tea with Mike show, Josh stops by. Come learn about his journey through music, the early struggles, and some of the latest success he's having in the R&B and music industry. As always, grab a cup of tea, sit back, and enjoy. Can we see we're recording now?
Yes.
Sweet. And obviously you can still see me and hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's go. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Tea with Mike show. I'm always excited to have new conversations with new people and to build new connections. So super excited to welcome to the show, Josh. Welcome to Tea with Mike, man.
Thanks for having me.
Also, let's just jump right in. And do you want to start by telling everyone where you call home and even where you grew up?
Sure. I'm from Edmonton, Alberta, and it's kind of the winter capital of Canada, as everybody seems to know it as, but never a dull moment, I suppose.
Awesome, man. And then, so do you want to talk a little bit about what your maybe like your childhood was like, maybe some of your favorite subjects in school, because I know that'll set the tone for our like kind of conversation here today.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, growing up, I was always quite an inquisitive child. I had lots of different interests. I was into sports. I was into music. I didn't really take music seriously as a hobby or anything. It was just kind of, actually, I was more into sports than I was into music. And my mom had put me into piano lessons at a young age, and I absolutely hated them, to the point where my teacher didn't want to teach me anymore because she thought that she knew that I didn't enjoy it, and she just felt like my parents were wasting their money. So she had a conversation with my parents, and they pulled me out. And in terms of school, I think my favorite subjects were always the ones that were more literary, like language arts and things like that. Those through elementary into high school, those were always my strongest subjects. I loved writing. I wrote stories for fun on my leisure time, and I think that's kind of where the songwriting came from, is because I was always writing little short stories. And I would say that was my thing.
Awesome, man. And so I believe that obviously like music was always like a part of you from like a very young age, and like when you were like super young, like age 6, you like picked up the guitar. So was learning the guitar something that you just kind of naturally picked up and were curious about, or did your parents have an influence on that? Because I know you just mentioned piano, so I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, my first instrument, I guess, was drums, and by drums I meant I had a little Fisher-Price toy.
Yes.
And Yes, exactly. And my dad jokes around about, because I've been trying to become a bit more of a handyman lately and trying to figure out, how to fix things and stuff. And my dad makes a joke that when I was young, he gave me a tool set, like a toy tool set, and instead of pretending to fix things, I used the hammer and the screwdriver as drumsticks. And so that was kind of my intro into music and drums and just percussion. And then I was given a toy keyboard, and I learned Disney music and Disney songs off by ear. And I actually didn't learn guitar until high school. Many years later, I wanted to. I just found that I found that playing piano all the time was quite difficult, because you always had to like lug around a keyboard with you. And I thought, man, it would be so much easier to just play guitar, and it's a smaller instrument. It's easier to carry around. And I just never looked back once I learned that.
Nice. So you say, would you say it's a little bit of like both? Like obviously you said you were curious, and then your parents gave you all these types of toys because they must have recognized that you were probably quite creative, and that's kind of how it got started.
I would say so. Yeah, I think they noticed that I think maybe they were impressed that I could, figure out songs by ear and play them quite accurately. And I thought maybe they were, they thought, oh, wow, this is interesting. Maybe we should, do the normal parent thing and put him into lessons. And I mean, that may have helped, but who knows?
Awesome, man. And then, so obviously you mentioned that you were drawn to the guitar because it was quite easy to play. Were there any are there any other things that drew you towards that particular instrument? Like, were you influenced by anyone? Did you see anyone else pick up a guitar, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, all my favorite artists were playing guitar. When I was in high school, I was really into like City and Color, and then also on the other end of the spectrum, Blink 182 and Fall Out Boy, and they were all just guitar players, and it was very guitar driven music. Where like City and Color, you've got the more acoustic stuff, and then Blink 182, Fall Out Boy is the more like punk rock type of thing. But the thing that tied them all together was the guitar, and so that to me was just like, oh my goodness, like I need to learn how to play that instrument. It's the instrument that all my favorite artists are using. And then after high school, I had a massive John Mayer phase, which I'm still in, and I don't think I'll ever leave the John Mayer phase, but he really was the one who got me into like this place where I'm like, you know what, I really want to get good at guitar. So multitudes of different influences from different genres.
Nice. And then, so obviously you've got the artist element. Do you like the sound of a guitar? Do you prefer like more acoustic or more electric, that type of thing?
It really depends. I love the I guess for electric guitar, the different sounds you can make with it. You can get all these, different effects pedals and make it sound like anything you want it to sound. And I think there's no instrument like the guitar. Like you can make a guitar sound like a piano if you used the right effect, or there's just so much diversity in the way that you can manipulate that instrument. And that's kind of why I'm a bit of a gear nerd, in so to speak, because I just love, I love finding all these different tools to make the guitar sound almost not like a guitar, which is ironic, but I love it. It's such a beautiful instrument. And acoustic, I love acoustic as well. It's just, it's so soothing and relaxing, and there's nothing quite like an acoustic guitar. But just in terms of my own nerdiness, the electric definitely is more fun.
Also, nice, man. And then, so obviously I know that you're a big Ed Sheeran fan too.
Yes.
So I'm curious to hear what you thought about it when you saw that he was like he did that little like stadium tour with like just him and the guitar. What did you think about that?
It was unreal. Ed Sheeran was my start into the world of songwriting. He was, I guess I'll put it this way, I started writing Ed Sheeran rip-off songs when I first started writing music. I just wanted to sound like Ed Sheeran, and if I could write a song that sounded like a crappy Ed Sheeran song, I was very happy. And I just wrote almost, I used the same chords that he used, and I changed the lyrics up here and there, but I completely ripped off Ed Sheeran a long time when I was starting off. And I would say him and John Mayer have had the biggest influence on my career, hands down. Ed Sheeran was so inspiring to me because, he didn't look like all these other people who were making it big in the industry. No. Because I always thought, like you always think you have to look a certain way, and you compare yourself to like, oh, of course that person's famous. Look at how they look. And it's like Ed Sheeran, he was, a little chubbier, his ginger hair, and like he wasn't like gonna be on the cover of GQ magazine or anything, like. And yet he was selling out stadiums, and people loved him, and his voice and his talent spoke for itself. And I was so inspired by that, because I'm like, okay, like you don't have to look a certain way to be successful in your field. And him doing that stadium tour with just his little guitar and his loop pedal, honestly, to me, that was just kind of proof that anybody given the right talent, drive, and opportunity can achieve some incredible things. So
nice, man. And then, so obviously, the theme we've been talking about is musical instruments. a big part of your upbringing and still continues to be. So what impact do you think music and musical instruments has had on your life and personal growth?
You know, it's a lot of just helping me through difficult times in my life. I actually, so I, the story about guitar is, I was actually really depressed one year. Like I had a very rough year. Just it was just one of those, it's almost like the 2020 of all years, so to speak. And I just found myself really depressed. I didn't want to leave my house. I didn't really speak to my friends all that much. I locked myself away in my basement and I just played guitar from the moment I woke up till the moment I went to sleep. And I am not exaggerating that at all. I found a lot of just release and comfort in the instrument. And, some people might think that's weird, but I developed probably 90% of my guitar playing in that one year. And honestly, I would even say that that instrument saved me in many ways. It was just the thing that kept me sane. It was a thing that kept me, almost like attached to reality. And yeah, I mean, I think music instruments are so powerful for mental health. Even if you're not good at them, like it doesn't matter. It's just there's something about being able to express yourself through a medium other than words. And I think that's what people need sometimes. And that's what I needed because I didn't have any words to put to the way I was feeling. And I think that just expressing myself through music and just instruments was just so helpful for me when I didn't have any words to say. So
awesome, man. Then obviously, as we're going to talk about, obviously the getting through that struggle and finding that outlet has almost created like a bit of a springboard, as we're going to get to in a second after a little tea fact. So the tea fact for the episode is revenue from tea is estimated to be around 231.43 million in the year 2020. It is believed that the market will grow by approximately 6.7% on a yearly basis from as we speak through to 2025. And a lot of the global tea revenue stems from China. And this comes from supplements101.net/tea statistics.
wow, it's a booming industry.
Need to get a piece of the pie.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fine. So, can you tell us a little bit about your journey, like from learning to play the guitar to becoming an award-winning R&B pop artist, and all of the crazy cool stuff that's been going on with support from Apple Music, Spotify, BBC Radio 1, DJ Pete Tong, and Mr. Jam?
Yeah, I mean, so I went to university. I did 5 years of psychology, and during that period of time, I initially enjoyed it quite a lot. Like, and I still love psychology. I still am super fascinated by, the mind and how people process information and emotions. And I did that for 5 years, but I found that by my 4th year, I was just getting exhausted with it. I didn't want to be doing it. I didn't want to be studying for something that I didn't see myself doing as a career. And I think that really was when it started kicking in that, I really want to give music a shot when I graduate. And so I graduated, and I basically convinced my parents to let me just go all out with music for 1 year. And if I didn't get anything off the ground with music, I would go back and do my master's. So I had that agreement with them, and eventually they agreed to it. And so I took that year, I released an album, and this was 2017, and that album actually got some good traction across Canada, and it was played on some pretty big radio stations, and it was opening up a lot of performance opportunities for me. I started playing more gigs, making more money with music, and I was actually also working a part-time job. Actually, no, it was a full-time job with the school board here in Edmonton, and I was a therapeutic assistant. So I basically worked under the school counselor, and that was a Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, or I guess it was 7 a.m. till 3 p.m. every day. And I would come home and that would be my time to crunch and work with music. And I didn't get much sleep in that year, but it definitely paid off. And then eventually I got to the point where I was making more money with music than I was with that job, and I
That's cool,
was
dude.
able to. Yeah, and it was a lot of work, and it was a lot of self-doubt, and it was a lot of pressure from my parents to stay and uh, continue to work in that environment and get my master's so I could go on to do more counseling. But I kind of pushed through. Took every opportunity I possibly could, spent a lot of money. Some was beneficial, some wasn't, but now we're here, and I would say that it's paid off significantly, and I don't think I'll be going back to school anytime soon. So
That's right. So let's do you remember how you kind of like felt when it began? Like obviously you're putting in all this hard work. You have been doing it for years. A lot lack of sleep, a lot of sacrifices. Do you remember that feeling or that day that you got an email, I don't know, or a phone call saying that they would like to play your music? Let's say on Apple Music, for example.
Mhm. Absolutely. I mean, uh, I struggled a lot with doubting myself and doubting that I could ever do music as a career. I always just kind of thought that it might be a hobby that might, pay every once and again, and that's about it. But then I guess when I started receiving these messages saying, you've been added to a major Spotify playlist, you've been added to this. I think for me, the biggest one, to be honest, was getting a song on on a Netflix show.
Yeah.
That to me was kind of like across the board, even my family. I think that was the biggest one for them, that really shocked them. And it's just a lot of affirmation from the industry and from the world, I guess, just basically saying that you're on the right path, keep doing what you're doing. And I needed that because sometimes it's really hard to get that confidence out of myself naturally, because I'm not really naturally a very confident person. And so
You look.
it was just very.
Sorry, I'll just interject. Like when I was watching the YouTube videos last night, you look like a confident person.
Oh, thank you. That's part of showbiz. You have to act that way sometimes, but I think, I mean, okay, I'll rephrase that. I am confident in my abilities.
Nice.
I'm confident as a songwriter, as a musician, and I know that I can perform at a certain level because that's what I've been, practicing and training myself for. But so I'm confident in that. I'm confident that if someone hires me to do a job, I can do it well. But I guess more what I mean about confidence is just like, I guess just how I view myself in relation to others. I don't see myself as being, anything special when it comes to other people who I'm competing against in the industry. So if that makes any sense, I guess.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, for sure. Obviously, the record like speaks for itself in some of the opportunities that you've managed to create for yourself. But you've achieved all of those through hard work and being humble and down to earth, and you're letting your kind of music speak for yourself. Correct?
Yeah, I would say so.
Awesome. So, what are some of the kind of like new skills that you've developed from playing music a long time? Could be within music, or it could be more broadly too. So.
Yeah, I would say just developing a business sense. That's probably the most beneficial. I've gotten a lot better with, because I've been self-managed pretty much my entire career, and that comes with a lot of responsibilities that have nothing to do with actually making music. So I've had to, write and figure out my own contracts. I've had to book myself. I've had to promote myself. I've had to market myself. I've had to all these things that have more to do with a computer than they do with a musical instrument. And that was it was a very tough learning curve because I'm not very mathematical and my brain isn't really wired that way. And so dealing with numbers and statistics and all these kinds of things, it was a bit daunting to me. So, I read a lot of books. Listened to a lot of podcasts, and just absorbed all this information from people who were a lot smarter than me in that field. And in fact, Gary Vaynerchuk was one of them who I first noticed was on your show, which is incredible. And like, he was a big kick in the pants for me to start taking myself seriously as a business and not just as a creative person. And I'd say that would definitely be probably the biggest skill set that I've developed, is just how to operate as a business as opposed to just an artist and a creative. Yeah.
That's fine. And so obviously, like a few years ago, you mentioned that, and I think you still are a little bit, that you loved Ed Sheeran. Do you, like, when you're creating music from scratch, there isn't really, like, now at least any brand new ideas for the most part, like, because a lot of things have been done. But the one thing that everybody has that is unique and does have a place in the world is everybody has a story to tell and different life perspective and different experiences, right? But do you kind of feel that there's people out there that still influence your music?
Absolutely. I get influence from so many different artists, many of whom are not even in my genre. And even just producers also. I found that I've been more into producers than I've been into artists lately, just because I've been producing my own music. And so it's really amazing to see other producers' processes and how they come up with a song from scratch and how they, build a story musically before the artist comes around and puts their lyrics to it. And so, like, even artists like Phineas, who has done everything of Billie Eilish's, and he's a massive inspiration to me in the world of production, and just seeing his process, because he's a phenomenal musician and he's got such a incredible ear for it. And then also artists like Tom Misch, a UK artist, he's also phenomenal, and how he builds, grooves, and he's so good at just like groovy music. Like, you can't listen to him without, like, tapping your foot and feeling it. And just trying to adapt that into my own sound, and how can I do that with my music, has been just so influenced by producers like this. But again, I will forever be an Ed Sheeran and John Mayer fan. They are the reason I started doing music, and everything they put out is always exciting and just incredible to see.
Awesome, man. So then, do you want to talk a little bit about how important it is to connect with an audience through songwriting lyrics?
Yeah,
and even the videos too. They often accompany the lyrics.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's everything. I think, if your song doesn't resonate with anybody, it's not going to do very well. And I think that's why my music has typically been quite, I never write a song about just nothing. And which is it's tough, because you see all these songs that blow up on TikTok, and quite often they're just funny songs, and they don't really have much substance, and they don't really do anything emotionally for you. They're more just, humorous, and that's been kind of tough for me, because obviously as an artist, I'm trying to get into that TikTok world, but I can't in my right conscience put out a song that means nothing to me. I everything I write is very, emotionally triggered by something, whether I've experienced or whether it's, I've experienced it secondhand from someone else, even sometimes from TV shows and movies. But there's always a very emotional component to everything that I've written and put out. And there's a part of me that wants to go down the route of making kind of nonsense music for the likability of TikTok and things like that. But at the same time, I feel like I wouldn't be doing myself I'd be doing myself an injustice as an artist if I were to sell myself out to that. But I think, again, back to your question, I think connecting with an audience is it's the reason I do music. I don't, I don't endorse putting out unhealthy messages through music. I really try to stick to things that are real and things that normal people deal with on a daily basis. And yeah, I think that is what gives me my energy, and that's what gives me my renewed sense of why I do this. So, yep.
Awesome, man. And then so obviously, more recently, you entered the Canadian. Was it like it's just like a songwriting competition, correct?
Yes.
So talk to us a little bit about how that came about, like maybe even like where you saw it, why you decided to enter, and then the outcome and what that means for you.
Yeah. I saw this. Actually, a few of my friends were sending me this link, and it was basically a chorus radio music competition. It was across the country, and the only prerequisite was that it had to be a summer song. And I had no idea how to write a summer song about 2020 summer, because it was the most unusual summer I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I sat there for weeks trying to figure out how to write a summer song about a summer that I spent in quarantine. And, because I typically travel every summer,
Okay.
and I didn't travel anywhere this year, and all my trips this year were canceled. And summer, you think, oh, being out on a beach, or, doing fun things with your friends. And I wasn't able to do a whole lot of either. And I just, I was a little bit like, how do they expect people to write a summer song right now? And I kind of just said, you know what, I'm going to write a summer song about how weird this year was. And that's how I got Leave Summer Behind. And by some miracle, that song ended up winning, and that was really cool. I quite frankly didn't think it would even make it into the top 10, because I was kind of making fun of summer, but I guess they resonated with it lyrically, and found it to be, so I've been told from them at least, they found it to be very relatable and real for this year, and that's why they picked it as the winner. So I cannot complain, but I was definitely not expecting that at all.
And just for context, how many artists might enter this particular competition?
As far as I know, there was over 3,000 entrants, so from across Canada, which was, I don't know, I've never really won anything before, so it was definitely, even now when I think about that, it's kind of like, really? When do I wake up from this dream?
For sure, like were you at home when you received the news? Was it an email? Was it a phone call? How did you initially react, and how
Yeah.
did the people around you react? So I'm curious to know like how your parents, for example, reacted, because obviously, yeah, you had to persuade them early on that this was the right career for you.
Yeah, I was actually sitting in this exact spot when I found out. I got a call, and my caller ID said Chorus Radio Entertainment, and I was like, okay. And I picked up the call, and this gentleman on the phone basically was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know that we've tallied all the results, and just wanted to let you know that you've won our competition. And it took me a few seconds to process what he was saying, because he said it in a very monotone voice, like he
Oh,
wasn't, you've won. Like he was more just like, I just wanted to let you know that you've won. It's almost like he didn't want me to win. Like the way he said it didn't seem very enthused. So
probably just a messenger. Like,
I know it was. I thought he was pranking me, and
Because there are a lot of sorry to interject, but because there are a lot of like scams out there, so you must be like,
yeah, I mean, if it had not said Chorus Entertainment on my caller ID, I probably would have been like, all right, stop it. But yeah, I mean, it was legit, and I got a follow-up email immediately after, and The first person I called was my dad. I called him at work and told him because I knew he would be the only person awake at that time because I got the call at like 7 a.m.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was quite early. I don't know why they called me so early, but I just happened to be awake, thankfully. And then I went and woke up my mom and told her, and she was ecstatic and half asleep, but still ecstatic. And yeah, I mean, it was a first for me of winning that kind of money and winning really anything at all. So it was a really nice confidence boost, I'd say.
Awesome, man. And then, so obviously, getting this next big break after the build up of like convincing your parents to the Apple Music and the Spotify and getting the odd song on their list and that type of thing. Like, so what are you gonna? How are you gonna use the money to enhance your career?
Uh, I'm doing a project right now. Yeah, so I am working right now on a project that's being supervised by Warner USA, and yeah, and it's gonna be quite the expense, and so I'm putting a lot of that back into there, and but for the most part, like I'm actually getting married in December, and so
Congratulations.
thank you. A lot of that is gonna honestly go towards renovations and furniture and things like that, and just setting up the new home and which is obviously just as important because I've lived at home my whole life, save for like some extensively long trips I've gone on, but I've kind of had my setup here the whole time, and it's really difficult recording music in a house full of other people, and it'll be really nice to have an actual dedicated studio space in my own home.
Nice.
And that is going to, I think it'll be a game changer for me. So that's
So
kind of the
So,
majority of it.
so you've been very practical with the earnings, and obviously it's probably a little bit of a relief and coming at a good time with everything that's going on in the world, right?
Yeah, I don't really spend my money lavishly anyways. There are a couple niche things that I like to spend money on. I will admit, I did buy myself a new guitar.
Well,
Uh,
that's enhancing the career.
it is. No, it's like it's a tool. It's not like I went out and, bought a fancy watch or anything. Like I went and bought something that I love that will give me a lot of enjoyment, but ultimately something that I use to produce more music and put more money back in the engine. So yeah, I think I bought a nice T-shirt as well. That is
It's
the
big,
extent to my yeah, but I mean it was a cheap T-shirt. I just liked it. So
very practical. I like it. So, what do you feel is the kind of like the best song that you've created so far?
that is a tough question. There's two songs of mine that I particularly like. There's one called "I'd Leave My Happy Home for You," and that was a song that I wrote many, many, many years ago. And I don't know what kind of, I don't what source of inspiration I had when I wrote that song because I wrote that when I was quite young. And I would say that from then till now I've developed significantly as a songwriter. But that song for some reason it's just great. Like I love that song and considering how long ago I wrote it, it blows my mind sometimes that I wrote that song so long ago. But I love that song. It's one that's close to my heart. I love performing it, and it's one that always gets a really good response when I do perform it. The song that I get requested a lot to play, specifically at weddings. Um,
Including your own question mark?
I mean, I don't know. I think I'd rather write something new for my own, but um, and then so that one is one of my favorites, and then also another one called Love on the Internet, which was on the most recent EP that I put out. I think that song was just cool. It was just um you know it was creative in the sense that we've never had a pandemic of this scale
Right.
before, and it was very much related to that whole idea and what that looks like in this day and age. And um I just think that song's great. Like every time I hear it and I hear the lyrics, I'm kind of just like, wow, I can't believe I wrote that.
Also, man, and then so obviously the first one, I leave my happy home for you. Do you think it resonates a lot with you because it was from the beginning of your musical journey, and because you've kept pursuing it for a number of years, it's something that you can reflect back on and see the processes and the journey that you've traveled so far?
I would say for sure. I mean, that song's been with me for a while, and it's almost like a nice little badge that I wear that I'm like, wow, this is where I started. And the fact that I still love that song to this day and still perform it kind of just is a nice reminder that I've come quite a long way since then, and will continue to press forward for as long as I'm able to. But yeah.
Also, man, and then so obviously we have to talk about it a little bit, but how has the pandemic affected your music, and how have you shifted your goals and strategies for reaching your audience to a very online world?
I think so. The pandemic really put a pause on a lot of my live performance side of things, and that was really tough. I'll be honest. I love performing live, and I had quite a lot of really amazing opportunities this year.
I bet.
Yeah, not just in Canada, but overseas as well, and all of those were literally canceled in the span of weeks, and that was very frightening for me at first because I didn't know where I was going to get my next paycheck from, and I really had to put in perspective what the other skills I've developed over this time were and how to employ those as money-making tools. And I ultimately came back to music production, and that's something that I've been doing for myself for a long time, and I never really thought of doing it for other people, but I kind of just had opportunities presented to me, and I was able to start recording music for other artists, and that really kept me afloat financially, and something I really enjoyed doing too, because it really gave me the freedom to do what I love every day. And it was just really nice, and I'm still doing it now. Like I kind of wake up on my own schedule, and as long as I get certain projects done, I can essentially structure my day however I like.
That's exciting.
I love it because I mean, you know, some nights I work really late, but it's okay because I can just sleep in and make up for it the next morning. And then sometimes I have early co-writes. Like yesterday, I was up at 6 a.m. for a co-write with someone in London.
Oh,
so
man.
I have to be up for the 7-hour time difference, and then, you know, it's just nice to be able to structure the day how you want to, and it makes it easier to fit in time for leisure and exercise and friends, and it's really forced me to adapt my lifestyle and spending habits and whatnot, and really just focus on what the bare minimum is that is most important. So yeah.
That's, man. And then so obviously we're in October and we're getting closer to the end of the year. Are there any like goals that you're working towards for like to complete or like start for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I mean, more so personal goals than career goals. So I'm getting married on December 6th, and so yeah, it's right around the corner, and I'm just trying to prepare myself mentally for being a husband, and, you know, being a homeowner, and adapting my life to another person, and just what that's going to look like. So it's just a lot of, you know, self-evaluation and preparation mentally, and just whatnot for that. And so that's taking up the majority of my mental capacity, I'd say. But I think also just, you know, writing new music. I'm doing co-writes every single day.
That's great.
Trying to get some music placed in television and film and whatnot. And I think that's an avenue that I'm really wanting to pursue heavily, is the sync licensing world. And honestly, just kind of rolling with the punches, and not trying to plan too extensively, because as you probably know, this year has thwarted many plans, and I'm just trying to, be present in each day and be thankful for each day, and just keep going on for as long as I can.
Fantastic, man. And then so as we kind of call it a wrap today, like, is there one piece of advice that you would like to leave people that they'll be watching this and maybe struggling with? Because obviously you talked about mental health and the struggles through your story and journey so far.
I think it's really important to anchor yourself to something that is stable, and something that is more than yourself, I find. Like, for example, like for myself, I'm a person of faith. I'm a Christian, and I'm that's been my anchor for my whole life, and that's where I get my source of inspiration and strength from. And I just think whether it's that, it doesn't have to be that, but whether it's that or something else, I think it's just important for people to have a steady constant in their life, because especially now, like with the way the world is, everything is, it's just a constant mess, and everything changes every single day, and I think that is such a huge source of anxiety for a lot of people. I know it is for me at times, and I just think it's important to be set and grounded in something. So I would say find that, whatever it is, and try to stay positive. I mean, it could always be worse, and I know that's a cliche piece of advice, but as somebody who has done volunteer work in developing countries, I've seen the other side. And here in North America, we're so privileged and lucky for so many different reasons. And not to say there's not poverty here, of course there is, but I just think in any situation, it could always be worse. So always count your blessings, count your things to be grateful for, and it'll switch your mentality.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was super fun.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks for watching this episode with Josh. If you know someone that's struggling right now and could be impacted by watching or listening to this conversation, make sure you share it with them. Thanks for your time, Josh.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for your time.
It's the Tea with Mike show.